What is up, everybody? Welcome back. It's so long since I can say welcome back to
Yep.
everybody. Nutsy's with me here today, but today we are back, people. Hockey is back. Took a couple months off. We didn't need to overwhelm you with any of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We just wanted everyone to sit back, watch, and relax like we were. Unfortunately, I wasn't, but we'll get over that in a second. First and foremost, welcome back, Nutsy. Luke, how was the summertime? How was your experience watching the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs?
It's good, man. I love playoffs, man. For that first round, it's just everyday hockey. You can't beat that. And I know the feeling, and we're going to talk about it soon. Just having your team in the finals, too, you just get your heart racing every other day. You're like, oh my God, like game days today, like you start freaking, you freak out. But hopefully next year along, you see the W, buddy. It's coming. It's coming. Those boys are hungry.
And for anyone out there who doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm a diehard Edmonton Oilers fan, and I had my heart broken yet again. My
Yep.
second Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals loss that I've watched. It's a tough one, but I mean, hey, you know what? It's neither here nor there, and we're going to move on from that because the season is underway.
Absolutely.
Technically, as of Tuesday, I guess they were in Prague playing. As of Tuesday, there is a new Stanley Cup champion to be had. The Panthers, are no
Wow.
longer the current Stanley Cup champion because there isn't one. That's as far as I'm going to say it. I'll leave it at that one. Uh, let's talk about a little bit of the moves in the offseason there. Touch base on a few of the things that kind of stood out to us, maybe player movement and or coach movement, whatever you kind of feel. Is there anyone in particular that you want to kind of lead off with?
Look behind me.
Yeah. For all of you
Yeah.
who are currently listening on the format and can't see, Luke has a Steven Stamkos jersey, and I'm sure he will take over and explain.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sad off season, I'm gonna be honest with you. Losing, a franchise player, a player who I've watched ever since he entered the league. Um, Liked by his teammates. He's been a captain for a long time, brings a lot of leadership to that room, and just to kind of see how things kind of ended was pretty sad and disappointing in terms of not being able to come up with an agreement. A lot of rumors out there how they just underballed him for contract money. Don't know what obviously the truth behind it all is, but from what I've heard and rumors saying that they're offering him about 3.5 million over multiple years is uh, if it is true, kind of pathetic in terms of to a guy who's won two Stanley Cups as a captain. He's the franchise leader in points. He has done everything for this community. And just to see him walk and leave to Nashville it's upsetting, and it's going to be a big loss in the room. Absolutely. I know we're going to talk more on it later on kind of pieces that got brought in and Jake Gensel to Tampa Bay, which is great and exciting, but you're losing, your franchise player, and he provides more than just what he provides on the ice. And he's probably a close friend to a lot of those guys on the team. And just to kind of see it, how it unraveled. And I opened Twitter up on Canada Day. I was having lunch on a patio, and I saw the farewell letter, and I just about snapped the umbrella in front of me. I was so fucking pissed off. But um, we'll see what happens. I would love to be down there for his return. Definitely be an emotional game, but I'll definitely watch it on TV if I can't get down south. So um, yeah, that was a shitty one, absolutely. But hopefully he performs well in Nashville, and another team, I guess, on the side to kind of root for if things fall apart
Mhm.
in the playoffs for Tampa.
Yeah, no doubt. That's going to be a different one to see him in yellow as opposed to the
Yeah,
blue and white, if you will, for
yeah.
that. But I mean, that's a whole other conversation that we're going to have here in a little bit here. I think the big surprising move for me, and again, I know it's been touched on quite a few times here in the last couple of months, but just to see the offer sheets come in, I think that was pretty
Oh yeah,
interesting with the
yeah.
Oilers and Blues, their situation there. Um, of course, it kind of sucked in my perspective because the Oilers lost two young players,
Hmm.
albeit they got pros picks and pool or cap space, if you will. But yeah, just interesting to see that dynamic come back into the league. You haven't seen that for quite some time. Very rarely do teams sign. I think the last one was, if I'm correct, Ahos, maybe, if I may, I think on that one. Montreal signed him to
Yeah.
that deal and they
Yep.
matched pretty quick. They said, "Wow,
Hmm.
that's a steal of a deal. Thank you very much for that."
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Absolutely.
doesn't happen very often. It was very cool to see. Unfortunately, it just happened to the wrong or against me, so I didn't like it as much. But yeah, that's a cool one for sure. I really do think a lot of the divisions got better. There's a
Hmm.
few teams that lost, lost some of their players and went elsewhere. Maybe they grabbed a couple rookies from their prospect pool or a couple veterans to fill those spots. But I feel like the parity in the league is going to be maybe some of the best we've seen in quite some time. I really don't think that high end team that wins the president is going to have as drastic of a difference of that sort of 20th place, still fighting for playoff type of team there. Excuse me. So I think that's going to be something that I think that the moves as a whole that surprises me the most is how many teams I think this year could actually compete. Not even so much excuse me, your regular 4 or 5 teams. So I think
Hmm.
that's something to definitely look at for each. But without further ado, I guess why don't we just jump on into it? As you know, most of us, that most of you that listen to the show, excuse me, I need some water.
He could be all right over
We
there.
got to, or we really try to kind of skip the BS. We want to just give you our thoughts, explain that side of things there. What I
Hmm.
wanted to do was kind of go over top 3 in each division, name all 4 divisions and include a wild card team. Can be from the same division. It can be from both. Your call. Why don't you just kind of go in and kind of give your top 3 of each in the Eastern first. Maybe we'll
Sure.
recap it. I'll do Eastern and then we'll do Western.
Sure.
All right, take the lead.
Rock and roll. All right. So the Eastern Conference. We'll start with the Metro. We'll leave Atlantic to the second. So top 3 for the Metro. I have the Rangers number 1. I think they're gonna win. They're gonna win the division. They're still strong regardless of some of the pieces they may have lost. But your cornerstones in Panarin, Igor Shesterkin, and Adam Fox, like a lot of championship teams are built based on a top forward, a top defenseman, a top goalie, and
Mhm.
having that top goalie and a number 1 like Shesterkin is huge. Um, you can just look at Tampa as an example with Vasilevsky. Having that number 1 goalie is going to get you far, and it could get you to the point where you're going to be on the edge of winning the championship. Adam Fox, I think, is very underrated on how good he is and how good he can move the puck left to right. Um, he's the quarterback for that power play, and
Mhm.
there's not many defensemen that are overall better than Adam Fox. So, and then obviously Panarin putting up, I think he put up 120 points last year. That was just a sneaky 120. I don't think anyone talks about Panarin when it comes to, offensive ability and what he could bring to the table as well. So, I also have Lafreniere stepping up on the lineup chart. They actually have Lafreniere playing on the top line. So it will be very interesting to see what he could bring to the table. There was a lot of promise for him, especially as a number 1 overall pick. So let's see what he can bring. What he did in World Juniors was exciting, and he's got a lot of skill. So
Mhm.
hopefully he can bring that this year. So the Rangers are my number 1. Number 2, I got the New Jersey Devils. I also had them last year, and there was a fat disappointment that they weren't in the top 3. I don't even think they made playoffs, did they?
No.
No, they were terrible. Anyways, they got a new voice in the room, Shelton Keefe. Hot start. They're 2-0 to start the year in Prague. I mean, they're deep 1-2. You got Hughes and Heischer. So you got that as the 1-2 punch. They brought in Jacob Markstrom as a number 1 goalie. So that gives them some flexibility where maybe they're struggling offensively. They've got a goalie that can back them up. And then you've got Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes. Luke Hughes is going to be out for, I believe, a couple months, I believe, with the injury. But having Dougie Hamilton healthy in the lineup will help solidify that back end. So Devils, number 2. Number 3, Carolina Hurricanes. I think it's going to be a big year for Seth Jarvis. He had a big year last year, and I think he's going to he's playing top line minutes. It shows this year, and hopefully he can take more of an offensive role and lead this team with Sebastian Aho. So they got solid goalies. They've got Freddie Anderson and Piotr Kochekov, Piotr, and Svechnikov. Hopefully he can have a bounce back year and find the goal total again. So those are my top three in each division. And then my wild card is I got my fellas. I got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the number
You
one.
didn't do Atlantic.
Yeah, you're right. What an idiot. All right. First
As
pod.
we proceed to the Atlantic Division.
First pod in a while. I'm struggling. All right. All right. Top three in the Atlantic. I do have the Florida Panthers winning the division.
Okay.
Yes, they lost some pieces. They did lose Brandon Montour, who is a big part of their back end. And even Ryan Lomberg, I hate the guy. It drives me nuts. But if he was on my team, he's a guy that gets in your face. He's just a guy that can bring more than just the offensive ability to your team. And he can be a guy that's just, a rat on the ice, getting their top end players' face and try and slow them down. They also gained Nate Schmidt, a very good, fast defensive skater. I think he'll be a good addition to the lineup. And they brought in AJ Greer and Thomas Nosek as well, and they can definitely help on that bottom six and add some offensive talent for the back end. Boston, number 2, the Bruins. They added Elias Lindholm, a number 1 center. They've been waiting for that number 1 center since Bergeron retired. Yes, they had Pavel Zacha and who was the other guy?
Centerman? Charlie Coyle?
Charlie Coyle, but there was another one I thought. Who else was there? Pavel Zacha.
Playing center?
Yeah, Pavel Zacha. Anyways, doesn't matter. They had Pavel Zacha last year as their number 1 center, and yeah, he's a good forward, but I don't think on a lot of teams he'd be your number 1 center. So having Elias Lindholm can solidify that, and having Zacha as your number 2 looks really good. They also brought in Nikita Zadorov on the back end, and I think he fits the Bruins style very well. Very big defenseman, gritty, looking to destroy everybody in his path. So having him on the back end is a good choice. Number 3, I got the hometown Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they're going to fit right where they were last year. I believe they were the 3rd seed in behind Boston. So in my predictions, they're going to be playing each other again. Yikes. But bringing the additions of Chris Tanev, I think he's a good puck-moving defenseman. I think he will complement Morgan Rielly very well on that top line. Even bringing in someone like Steven Lorentz, won a Stanley Cup last year, has the experience in the bottom 6, can bring that grit and the speed where maybe the Leafs don't have that in the bottom 6. So it's nice to have someone like that, even with a winning pedigree as well. So yeah, that'll be my top 3 in the Atlantic. Back to the wild card.
And now, if we could get your wild card picks, that would be great too.
Well, I already know my top one, so I have Tampa Bay in the top wild card. It's going to be interesting to see. I know we talked about Stammer leaving Tampa Bay, but another player that left Tampa as well on a surprising move was Mikhail Sergachev going to Utah. They got a boatload back. They got J.J. Moser, Connor Geeky, and some picks and some prospects. Something's telling me that Sergachev isn't 100%, whatever he did to his leg. He is a young defenseman, so to see him getting moved was a bit surprising, but I don't know if there's something that they see that we don't. But they did bring in Ryan McDonough, which I loved Ryan McDonough during our cup runs. Great defenseman, willing to sacrifice the body when needed. He is getting older, but he does also bring some leadership into the room. He already has an A. He came back. They put an A back on his jersey. And he eats a lot of minutes too, so it's nice. So they can spread that out between him and Hedman. So looking forward to seeing him back. And then obviously the big free agent signing of Jake Gensel, a guy who can put the puck in the back of the net. Yes, it is another left-handed in the top 6. I think the Lightning only have one right-handed shot in the top six, and that's Braden Point. So losing Stammer was big, not just because of his offensive ability and leadership, but he was a right-handed shot too. So how to gain some a little bit of flexibility in that top six. So I have Tampa in the wild card. There's just question marks. They could creep into the top three if they have, they have a good year. But it's all dependent on kind of the movement of players and how they fit in the lineup. So interesting to see what happens. Number two, this was a tough one. I was doing a lot of research on who would sneak in there. I originally had Philly in there, which is crazy. But then I realized I looked at their depth and defense, and they don't have a goalie. So I don't know. That Mishkov kid looks nasty.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe he would bring the reins, and Tortsy. Tortsy knows how to move a group. So, but my actual pick was the New York Islanders. I got the Islanders in there. They got Noah Dobson, who is just every year is getting better and better,
Mhm.
and he's really showing that he can be one of the top defensemen in the NHL. Um, like I mentioned before, your cornerstone pieces: Matthew Barzal, you got Ilya Sorokin, Noah Dobson. So a lot of young talent here that could really bring this group to another level. So I think they're going to sneak into a wild card this year if everyone stays healthy. I know Sorokin's injured, but if he becomes healthy, I think they sneak in. So that is my Eastern Conference predictions.
Not bad. I
You
like
want to go
that.
with
I
yours, and then we'll
Yeah,
go
yeah,
west.
I'm gonna do mine. I'll do the Metro first here as well.
Yeah.
Um, I have very similar teams, so I'll kind of
Yeah.
just do my rotations and kind of chat what I think, a few key points. So Metro, I actually have winning the Metro at Carolina.
Mm,
I feel like even though they did lose a few pieces, specifically on the back end, they did get a few pieces back. They did sign Gostisbehere. They did sign Sean Walker on the back end
mm-hmm.
as well. I do like Pyotr Kochetkov as well, as you pointed out, goaltending coming in and kind of splitting with him and Anderson. I do like that pairing. I don't think they've lost much on the front end. I think there's a few key pieces that they're expecting to take a step forward, i.e., Seth Jarvis, i.e., a healthy Svechnikov. And I think that team is really well coached, and that's a big thing too. Brendan Moore makes those guys work really hard and kind of makes them believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
Second, I have the Rangers finishing second in the Metro. Again, key points pointed out by you. They got pillars, as you pointed out with your last pick there with the Islanders. They too have almost very same structure, right? Shesterkin in the back, top five, top three goalie in the league. And then you've got Fox, and then you could sit there and say you got Panarin, or you have Zabinajad, or you have
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They're very well structured. They're very well built. I think they're deep as well. I don't know. That team to me is a wild card team. I think they could really go all the way this season if everything clicks. I think they need that big step from Lafreniere. I think they need that big step from Kako next season. They need Philip Hedel to be healthy too, because when he's playing on that line with those two guys, maybe the line changes a little bit differently now. When Hedel is in the lineup, I find he makes a massive, massive difference for them. So I really am strong on the Rangers. I think this year too, they might even want to make a big splash at the deadline to really go all in again, because that's the type of team that they are. They typically do make big name additions at the trade deadline. Third, same team. I got New Jersey as well. I don't think Sheldon Keefe's going to go over there and have much of a change in his style of play, so to speak, any of his schemes, any of his structure. I think he can go in and implement it very similar to what he did here in Toronto. He's got a star player in Jack Hughes. He's got a better back end for sure, better goaltending with Markstrom, that's for sure. I think if he can get the same kind of bottom six production that he got out of Toronto in those years to go along with New Jersey, I think they can fight hard. I'm not convinced they're going to be able to keep the puck out of the net any better than Toronto did here with what they've got there, just the way that they play. I don't think Sheldon Keefe's that kind of coach either. I think he wants to get the most out of his team. Yeah, excuse me, his teams offensively as he can. As burping up a couple onions on that one there.
Yikes.
Tastes good, just not a good look. So I do like the Devils as well this season. I even too believe, and we talked about it last season, if Jack Hughes didn't get hurt, I honestly think they probably would have made playoffs last year. I really do. I think that things kind of took a whirl and twirl and everybody fell down. And I think that is something that won't happen again this season. Not
Mhm.
specifically because of change of coach, not specifically one thing or another. Luke Hughes is a little bit injured, banged up. I think you said 4 months, but I think he's only like 1 month or something into the season, something like that. Dougie Hamilton's healthy too. So a lot of their guys are healthy. If they can stay healthy, they're a team to compete for sure. Wild card teams, I also have Tampa in the one slot. I think between Boston, or sorry, I did the exact same thing as you did. I did the
Yeah, what
exact same thing as you
and I
did.
didn't
I just
I didn't
rolled
even
down. I was just, my tongue was blaring. I was toe tapping on the dance floor.
I didn't
The
even
song
correct you. I
stopped.
was just going with it, and I'm like, "Wait a second, who do you put as the top 3 in the Atlantic?"
You and me are the people that go to that, like, headset party or whatever, and what I mean by that is, like, when you go in, you're given a set of, like, headphones, and the entire place is, like, actually dead quiet, but you only hear music through your headphones, and everyone's listening to the same song.
The most ridiculous thing.
That was us. Anyways, let's take it to the Atlantic Division, where I have, for the first time ever,
No
for
way.
the first time
No
ever,
way.
I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are gonna win the Atlantic Division, yeah, not
Oh
first time
my
ever in the history
god.
of the team, the first time ever that I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are gonna finish first in the
Oh
Atlantic
my
Division. You heard it
god.
here first. I don't know, something about it. I don't think I can sit here and say a lot of the things I necessarily disagree with what they did, what they've done, how they've handled business. For me, I think personally, they can score with the best of them in the league. I think if anything, a change in coach is a good thing, whether it be a kick in the ass, whether it be just a completely different style of play, just to give other teams different looks, especially when you play a lot of the tougher teams in the league that are actually in your division. That stuff carries over into playoffs, that style, those trends, everything that happens in the regular season carries on for the Atlantic Division, particularly because they're so strong and they see each other in the playoffs. Backtrack very quickly. I think that just having a change of coach in the back end is going to help because I think Berube is a little bit more defensively, or maybe just more of a responsibility focused coach. Whereas maybe I think Keefe was a bit more like not run and gun, but just to a certain extent wanted his top players to be the best offensively, and maybe didn't get as much, buy-in to playing defense. So I really like Toronto. I think it's going to be very close, but I do think Toronto's going to win. I think their defense sucks, but I think their goaltending can be okay at best, and they can still win the division.
Mhm.
Florida, I have in the 2 spot. I do believe that Bobrovsky's going to come back with a lot less off of his shoulders, knowing that he's won now. Also knowing that Stolarz isn't in his back pocket, and Spencer Knight's obviously not coming anywhere into his back pocket either. So I don't think he feels much competition. I think Bobrovsky can go do his thing. A lot of those guys, like I said, a lot of weights lifted off their shoulders now that they did settle that. I do see a bit of a slump early on for Florida, specifically because they went to back cups. They finally did it. They capitalized, whatever. Um, I could see, a 500 start or something through the first 10 games, and people are going to say, what the hell's going on in Florida? And then they'll go and
Mhm.
win 7 of 10, and everyone will be fine. And then third, I do actually have Boston as well. I don't think
Mhm.
they're going to take a very big step back, truthfully. As you pointed out, was Zadorov coming in, and particularly just like double twin towers on the back end. I think their shortest D-man's like 6'5" or something like that. So they're going to be very difficult to play against, very difficult to play on the inside. Those little quick slot chances in the home plate, just those quick one-timers, the way that teams are implementing that sort of touchdown to the bottom to a quick one touch up to the middle in the slot, kind of those one tic-tac-toe kind of one-timer plays. I think you're going to limit that, and that's why you've seen Boston do so well in those particular categories over the years. They've notoriously been a good defensive team. They've notoriously been physical. They've notoriously played Boston Bruins style hockey. The guys they brought in are like 2AT, the way that that fit that void, and they always seem to find those guys, right? I think Boston's fine. No Marchand or no Bergeron, excuse me, is no excuse anymore. That is come and gone as of last season, so that's officially out the door. They're a brand new team again this year with no Allmark. They're just riding Swayman. Is he your guy? Let's find out. McAvoy, do your thing. You're our number one guy. Marchand, this is absolutely your team. You've had a full year. Nobody's questioning anything. Can we go out and do it? I think Boston steps up. Tampa, as I said, first wild card spot. You pointed out a lot of the same points that I was going to. I do really like Gensel. I think he's going to fit in phenomenally, actually, with Kucherov and Point. I actually think Gensel, don't throw stones at me. I think Gensel's almost a better fit than Stamkos is when it comes to playing with those guys, because Gensel can also pass the puck as much as he can finish. I think that when you have a guy like Stamkos or Ovi or, your Matthews, you tend to kind of creep to those guys' sides and you take away more of that guy and open up the door for Kucherov and Point to do the thing, because not many guys can shoot the puck like Stamkos or Ovi or Matthews or whatever. So those
Mhm.
guys got so much more respect. Whereas I think because Gensel has a finishing ability, but he also has a bit of a playmaking ability, plus he's a lefty, you can maneuver him around the ice a little bit more. And I think he's going to be able to do just fine. I think Tampa's going to be just fine. I
Mhm.
actually think, and we'll get to it here soon, he's not actually my guy, but I actually really think Hedman could compete for the Norris this year. I really do think
Ooh.
that. Second wild card team, because I'm long winded on these answers, is Buffalo. I think Buffalo Sabres are getting in this year as well. I understand they're 0-2. That's completely fine. They're overseas, whatever. They're partying, they're having a good time. Maybe not. Who knows? But they're going to come back. I know they've got a pretty tough schedule playing within the Atlantic. Playing in the East as a whole is a pretty tough schedule. Like I said, I think a lot of those guys are in sort of the make it or break it year. If something doesn't change this year, they're probably going to get rid of somebody or move pieces, do whatever it takes to get on that. I think they had a new coach late last season. Is that correct, or was it early this summer? I think I'd have to fact check that one. I believe they
Yeah,
did.
Lindy Ruff is back.
Is back behind the bench. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, old man Lindy's back there playing with his dog. But yeah, I really do. I like Buffalo. I like their back end. They have three elite left defensemen for sure,
Oh yeah.
in Deline, Power, and Byram. And they can move the puck extremely well on the power play. They have some big shots. They have good playmakers. Young kids stepping up. JJ Paterka is going to step up. Hopefully Zach Benson steps up. Hopefully my boy, my one of my favorite players in the league, Dylan Cousins, comes back to earth this year and doesn't have a dud after his, almost 70 some odd
Dark
points.
horse from Whitehorse.
Yeah, I don't know what happened last year. He went from 75 or some odd points down to close to 50 or something. So that was really hard to see. So yeah, recap: Toronto, Florida, Boston, Atlantic, Carolina, New York Rangers, and New Jersey Metro. My two East West East wildcard teams are Tampa Bay and Buffalo Sabres. So
Nice.
jump out to Western Conference if you want. We can recap the same way. Why don't we start into the Central? Just keep it
Yeah.
rocking. Give the people what they want to hear.
Absolutely. All right, Central. I have the Dallas Stars winning the Central. Looking at their depth, I think it's deeper than Colorado. People may argue, but I think it's deeper. I think they got a lot of young, promising pieces that is going to take them to the next level. I know we'll talk about him later. Logan Stankoven, that kid is elite at his age, and he's got a lot of potential. So excited to see what he can do in the next steps. Also, the rise of Wyatt Johnston. Him in playoffs last year, I think a lot of people didn't realize how good he was or know who he was. But man, did he ever take a step in playoffs? And he is an exciting kid to watch. And I have his young guns too, so I mean, I can make a little cash on the side. So I'm really hoping he takes that big step. So, Miro Heiskanen on the back end, Jake Ottinger. There's that trio again. They got the pillars. They got even Rupe Hintz too, right? Rupe Hintz is a good player, and then you've got leadership with Sagan and Ben. I know they are getting on their back nine, but they still can bring a lot to this team, even though if it's not offensive. I know Jamie Benn can bring a lot of leadership to that room, and same with Tyler Sagan too. So that's I got Dallas winning the Central. Second, I've got Colorado. His team has got a lot of superstars on this team. You got Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar. Um, you could argue McKinnon and Makar are two of the top three players in the league. You really could argue it. Just what they can bring.
You really could argue it.
You really,
It's like
really could
you
argue it.
for an argument on that one. Like you're not gonna get that from me on those three guys.
No, no. I was just watching NHL Network, and they're talking about Makar, and in his career right now, he's over a point per game, and there's two guys ahead of him, Paul Coffey and Bobby Orr, who have
That's
finished their careers as a point per game. So
as D-man, yeah. Wow, that's
as D man, so
incredible.
just seeing that right now in today's age, like there's not a lot of there's no one, there's no defenseman other than Makar who has a point per game in their career with I
That's
don't know how
actually
many games he's
that's a
played.
ridiculous thing to be as a
Yeah,
D-man in this
yeah, and
in the
he's
league,
probably played at least 250 games.
right?
So seeing that is incredible. Um, hopefully Gabriel Landeskog can step on the ice. I don't even know if he's played a regular season
Just a
game in like 2
massive loss
years.
for them that they don't even think. A lot of people don't realize.
And he's your captain. Like he's your leader. He's your guy. I'm sure he's with the boys as much as he can be when he's in recovery, but just not being able to be on the ice has got to be is a huge loss. And I feel bad for the guy. It's been 2 years since he's played hockey, so like I couldn't imagine like what he's been going through and kind of how he spends his day by day on trying to recover, especially when you recover once and then go through the process again. Like mentally, that's gotta just knock you down. So it will be good to see him back on the ice and hopefully he can stay healthy. So Colorado is number 2 for me. Number 3, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Um, they've got Connor Hellebuck, who just came off a Vezina winner. Cole Perfetti hopefully can take that next step. And then they've got Alex Iafallo and Gabriel Valari. Thanks, PLD. That was
I
quite
was
the
gonna say,
trade.
hey, what was that trade again?
Like, oh my God. I was going to talk about it earlier about him going to Washington. Like, I don't know what the GM was fucking thinking. Like, that guy sucks.
Oh,
Anyways, back to what I was saying. Kyle Connor, very underrated goal scorer. Maybe Mark Scheifele can have a bounce back year. But they have the pieces to do it. And, you know, if they have a hot start, you never know. They could finish higher than third. I really believe that. And having someone like Josh Morsey as like your back end leader, another guy who's an extremely skilled skater and can move the puck north and south very well. So Winnipeg, number 3 for me. To the Pacific, I have the Edmonton Oilers winning the division, and I actually don't even think it's close. I really don't think it's close. I've been looking at 2 and 3 not being completely healthy, especially I have Vegas as number 2. They're very skilled. They got a good team. Their back end is maybe one of the best in the league. Depending on how Aiden Hill and Ilya Samsonov are going to be as your tendies, matching up with other teams, especially the Oilers, I just don't see anyone beating the Oilers in that top spot. Number 3, I have the Kings. Loss of Doughty, breaking, I believe he fractured his ankle. That's tough on the back end, especially now you've got Jordan Spence and Mikey Anderson leading your back end. Doughty's a guy who brings a lot of leadership, but he also eats a lot of minutes on the back end. I think he was top 3 in ice time last year. I think he was close to 30 minutes. It was like 28 or 29, which is crazy. So losing a guy that can eat up that amount of time, it's going to be a bit of a change for those young guys who are going to be eating more minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how they are. But LA Kings, their offense is fairly strong. I think Quinton Byfield's going to take another step. Kopitar, very underrated. And then you've got Adrian Kempe, who is very skilled, great goal scorer. No one talks about him. He's another underrated player. And oh shoot, why am I blanking? What's the guy? Kevin Fiala. another solid forward who can bring both ends to the ice. He's a good 200-foot player. But that would be my third spot. Would be the LA Kings. Wild card, I have the Predators. We talked about it multiple times already, but you brought in someone like Steven Stamkos, who brings in more of an offensive ability, brings in leadership, brings in experience, especially winning 2 Stanley Cups, going to 3 in a row.
Mhm.
You're bringing in a guy like Jonathan Marshall, another guy who's won a Stanley Cup. So he brings in more of an offensive ability with the experience. And then Brady Skay, another defenseman to
Shea?
is it Skay?
I
How
thought
do
it
you
was
say it?
Shea.
Shea, Brady Shea.
Skater boy. Brady's skater boy.
Brady Skater Boy. Anyways, another guy who can help eat minutes alongside Roman Yossi. So um, I think the Preds, if they can click right away with the new pieces, they could be higher than a wild card spot. But as much as it's nice on paper, let's see if they all click together. And that's where I have them at the one wild card. Number two, this was an interesting one, but I do have Seattle. I have Seattle sneaking into the playoffs. Um,
Okay.
I expect a bounce back year from Matty Beniers. I think he'll regain the number one center spot, play like he did a couple of years ago. He's still very young, lots of upside potential. They bring in a guy like Brandon Montour, who just came off a cup win, a guy who can eat minutes on the back end, but a guy who can be gritty on the back end too. So, something they need. And they also brought in Chandler Stevenson, another forward, another cup winner, another guy who can solidify your down the middle, and a very sneaky offensive player who can bring both sides to the ice. So, excited to see what they can bring this year. That-
Stevenson's won twice, right? He won with the Caps, didn't he?
oh yeah, yeah,
Caps and Vegas, right? He won back in what, 2017?
he got 2 ring.
He's got two of them. One on both
Whoa,
hands. Yeah,
both
not
ears.
bad. And just to go back, if there is any name that I would probably mess up in the NHL, it probably should be that one too, Brady Shea, Skjei, folks, for the spelling. Yeah, I don't
My bad.
blame you. So sorry on the call out on that one. I think most people would probably be like, I wouldn't have known that either. Skjei, Shea. Anyways, moving on. I'm gonna go do Central first here. I think that's what you did first, correct?
Yep.
This is gonna be boring. A lot of what you just said is a lot of what I'm gonna say. But here's my 2 cents. I'll kind of make this a little skippy, just like a little bit of peanut butter. Dallas, I got going one hole. I do really think they're going to finish first. I like that team. I was scared last year when Dallas went up against Edmonton in the conference finals. I was
Mhm.
like, they are going to shut the Oilers down. They are phenomenal defensively. They're incredibly structured, and Ottinger can absolutely win any particular game you need him to play. Now, when it came to it, I know they were a bit banged up. Sure, Edmonton was banged up too. Absolutely. I think where Dallas broke down was they couldn't muster up consistently strong chances. They would outshoot teams and they could, out battle them. I don't think they were producing enough high scoring chances and volumes in the high scoring and danger slot areas enough. I also too think that their back end was a bit slow. Watching the Oilers' speed take over some of those games, not specifically looking at the game where the Oilers were outshot by 30 shots or whatever and still won. I think game 6. I'm talking about the other games as a whole. I think Dallas was kind of looking at this offseason thinking, okay, we do need to get a little bit quicker. We do have a young defenseman in Thomas Harley who more than proved himself. Now he is capable of being a bona fide top 4 guy, even closer to number 2 guy there in Dallas now that Tanev's gone to Toronto. So I think Dallas, nothing much, changed in the top front other than the fact that they've got a couple kids that are that much better now. Rupe Hintz is a little bit more experienced now. He's healthy. He had injuries, toward the back end of the season, plus in playoffs. Robertson, I don't know what was up with him last year. Seemed a little bit roller coastery. I think he'll get his game back on point. Sagan, I think, still has a little bit of juice left in him. And I really do like a few of those young kids, as you touched on. Wyatt Johnson's made a name for himself early on in the season. He's dependable. He can score the puck if you need him to. He can play defensively structured. He's a very smart hockey player, so he'll figure things out.
Hmm.
Don't worry about that guy. He's going to play a very long time. You'll hear that name for the next 15 more years, I'm sure. While Logan Stankoven as well is going to jump into that Pavelski spot. Ironically, those are like I think of Pavelski when someone's like, "Hey, think of a player that Stankoven reminds you of." It's Joe Pavelski, and they just played together for the last 2 seasons. Well, at least Stankoven was there when Pavelski was in the within the franchise. So Dallas, Colorado's my number 2 spot, as you said. I do think a lot of where Colorado lies heavily on whether or not Landeskog comes back and whether or not Georgiev or Gorgiev, however you want to pronounce it, Luigi the Fifth or whatever someone pointed out, has a mediocre to above average season. So like I'm not asking him to be a superstar. I'm just asking him for him to not be a shitbag, and basically they'll be just fine because they can score with the best of them, and they're absolutely elite at transitioning the puck. They arguably move the puck up quicker than quicker up the ice than any team in the league, including the Oilers. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that Colorado's going to be just fine. I really do think Landeskog's key. I think Arturi Lehkonen getting back and healthy is key. And I think that if Rantanen and McCarr, yeah, sure, Brandon McCarr and McKinnon, excuse me,
Hmm.
are healthy the entire season, I think they're going to dominate again. Third, I have Winnipeg as well. I think strongly of Hellebuck. I really do feel strongly about their forward group this year, more so in the sense they've kind of not toughened up a little bit, but they're a little bit more water bug kind of style to play against. They're in your face. They're quick to the puck. They don't take stupid chances. They're just very smart, basic, old school Paul Maurice hockey that still lies within, even though he's coaching down south, of course. I think a lot of those kind of similar style is stuck within that group there, and I think that they play a very well structured game. I think Hellebuck's going to have another solid year. I think he's going to take what he learned from this year's playoff exit, losing early and letting in what was it, like 30 goals or something in the first round or something close to that. I think it was a stupid number. Colorado lit him up, even though Colorado lost game 1 8-4 or something like that.
Yeah.
What was it? Wild series. Winnipeg finishing third. We'll go into further details as we kind of get into the season, but just early takes here. And the Pacific, pretty well the same, man. I really do like Edmonton's chances of winning the Pacific this year. If you
Mhm.
look at the run they went on last year, with their 17 in a row, but also having gone 2-9-10 or something like that to start the season. I believe, and I can fact check it, I think Vancouver only finished with about 4 or 5 more points than Edmonton. And I believe that would have then made Oilers, if they had tied Vancouver, they probably would have had home ice advantage in the Cup Finals. So, what I'm trying to say by this, the way I think Edmonton will win the Pacific, no down stretches. Like lose 2 or 3 in a row. Sure, that'll happen once, maybe twice in a year, but no 5 games, 6 game, 7 game losing streaks. That's what's going to kill you in today's day and age with the parity, as I was mentioning earlier.
Mhm.
Edmonton gains Arvidsson, they gain Skinner. I like that. Losing
Mhm.
Holloway, I think, is a bit of a bastard. I really do think that losing his speed and youth is good. You do gain speed with Arvidsson. You also gain a right hand shot with Arvidsson over Holloway, slightly above contract pay. Skinner comes in and basically, just adds a bit more depth while Kane's out. Love the team. I really do. Holloway loss sucks too, or Broberg loss sucks as well, but we'll go into detail about that on another day. I really do like Edmonton's chances. Vegas, I have finishing second. Not much has changed in Vegas. Healthy Eichel. They have a fresh Thomas Hurdle after last year, just getting all kind of used to everything. And trade deadline didn't have much time to adjust. Didn't look himself. I think a full off season getting used to those guys coming in. Plus Stevenson's gone, so he's got that kind of extra additional role, whether it be second line center if they want to work him off of Jack Eichel, or they keep him together and they run power play together. You name it. I think that, I don't like their depth of forward group as much as I used to, but I do like their defense, as you pointed out. That's tremendous there. I'd like for them to figure out what the heck is going on with Robin Leonard too, because I'm sure the league wants to know exactly what that extra $5 million is going to be used up for in Vegas. Like they need more reasons to spend money. Hopefully, it goes back the other way this time on them. Great D, great goaltending as well. They've consistently proved that year after year. They had a tough out last year having to play Colorado they lost to, right? In the second round, I believe,
Yeah.
or Dallas. No, Dallas last year, excuse me.
Yes.
They
Sorry.
lost to, which is a tough team to beat. I mean, you look at the top 4 teams of each division. You could replay those playoffs from last year, and it could be 5 different ways the next 5 times you run it. So, I feel pretty heavy that Vegas is going to take another run this year. I got Vancouver finishing third. I think any team coached by Rick Tocchet has a chance. They are very reliable, responsible, as I touched on about a few other teams ago. Those things go a long, long way. You might not have the absolute most sexiest players out there, although be it, you do have some very, very high-end talent with Pedersen, with Miller, with Besser. So, they have the talent there. Norris winner in Quinn Hughes now. See if Hronek can own up to that contract. Do they have the depth and defense? I think that kind of killed them last year. But without doubt, the absolute biggest question in Vancouver is, will Thatcher Demko be healthy? If he's healthy, they absolutely have a chance to not only make playoffs in the third spot, but to win the West again. So I think they could absolutely do that. West wild card. I have the LA Kings finishing as the top spot. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking, that Doughty loss is going to be massive.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking about how, as you pointed out, Spence has to take a step forward. A few guys have to take a step forward. I think one of the biggest guys that'll actually really be, skyrocketing now in playing time and ability is Brant Clark. I think
Hmm.
he's going to be a big one. I think he was 7th or 8th overall, something like that, one of the two, out of Barrie in the O here. And then obviously, like you said, they have a good group of young forwards, man. Kempe, Byfield, who's the other young kid that I'm thinking of? Doesn't matter. They have quite a good solid group of forwards in there too. And I really do like their D. I think that they play a really hard game to play against. But you know what it is? It's like the Leafs here, and we'll see the Oilers and Kings in round 1, and we know the Oilers will beat them in round 1, just like the Toronto Maple Leafs will see Boston in the first round, and Boston will beat Toronto again. The
Are you
world goes
thinking of?
the
Are you
world goes
thinking of?
round.
Are you thinking of Arthur Kaliev?
I was, yes. I was also
Okay.
even thinking of Trevor Moore as well. I was thinking of their
Oh,
entire
yeah, yeah,
group, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, like they got a really strong forward group. But yeah, like I said, the world will go round. The Oilers will beat the Kings in round 1. The Bruins will beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Atlantic Division Toronto Maple Leafs in round 1 as well. Anything else you want to put on to division winners?
Yeah, I completely forgot about Vancouver. That's pretty bad on me, actually. I did this last year, and then Vancouver won the West. So,
And we each
yeah,
had Vancouver missing playoffs last year, and they won. They
I
could
did it.
absolutely go the other way though.
I know, but yeah, I fucked that one up. I definitely wanted them in there,
Because
but
I wanted to
maybe
put Utah in there as well. I also thought they
yeah,
could. Seattle, I thought about as well.
just let
But
everyone win the
we'll look.
everyone.
We'll recap
Everyone
in a
makes
couple
playoff.
weeks and like see where the actual standings are at in a couple weeks
Yeah.
and go from there, right? So
Hmm.
let's jump into award winners though. Kind of end the show
Yeah.
here on award winners, and then I got a couple little quick hot topics. So real quick, doesn't have to go into like much detail here. By all means, speak your mind. Award winners will go Art Ross, the Rocket. So Art Ross, most points. The Rocket, most goals. Norris, best defenseman. Vesna, best goalie. Hart is the MVP of the league. And Calder is the best rookie. Okay. For those listening, for those watching, Luke, you go first. I'll let you go ahead and take that in order. Your your 6 awards that we've got here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I definitely have 7, but whatever. I have
Do you
Ted
have
Lindsay.
Jack Adams still in there?
No, Ted Lindsay.
I didn't do Ted Lindsay as well. So that would be best player voted on by the players.
Okay. Well, in my awards for the 24-25 season, it is going to be the McDavid Revenge Tour. This guy is hungry. He's pissed off. I don't know if anyone's seen the clip of the Prime show of him losing his mind after the game in the finals. This guy works hard every offseason and proves to everyone he can be even better than he was the year before, which is crazy because he's the best player on the planet. And I think we can all agree on that. I have him winning the Art Ross, Hart, and Ted Lindsay Award. I think he's gonna pop off this year and prove to everyone that he has another step, even though it's hard to believe because he's already so goddamn good. So I have him locked for those three just because of the prove it and only losing by 1 goal for the cup last year. So he is going to be on an absolute tear this year. So I have McDavid locked for those. If he stays healthy, Matthews is going to win the Rocket. I think this guy's scoring ability is the best in the league. He put up 69 goals last year. Will he get there again? I don't know. It's very hard to get to that point. He almost had 70. Will he get over 60? If he stays healthy, I think he will be over 60 again. And he's got a good forward group to kind of help him get there. So Rocket will be Austin Matthews. Norris, I think it's Cale Makar's year. I think he's going to take it back from Quinn Hughes. Like we mentioned before, I think he's the best defenseman on the planet. Nothing against Quinn Hughes, great defenseman, but I think Makar's on another level. It's almost like McDavid for forwards. Like we mentioned before, he's a point per game defenseman. He's the only one currently active in the NHL that has that. And he's got a very good group of players around him that can help him take that next step. So Cale Makar's got my Norris vote. Goalie was an interesting one. I know I kind of took the obvious on my last few picks, but I'm going to go a little off the board here with my Vezina pick. And I have, if he stays healthy, I have UC Saros. Nashville's team's gotten a lot better this year. Like we mentioned, the additions to their roster, and I really think that with this help, I honestly think UC Saros has a legitimate chance of being in Vezina talks. Especially, he's still a really good goalie, regardless of who's around him. But having Yossi, Brady Shea, trying to say it right. And then he's got a good forward group now with the additions of Marshall and Stamkos. But then you've got like someone like O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, who put up 48 goals. Having an even better team than the year before will really help him produce lower numbers for UC Saros. So Saros has my Vezina vote. A little off the board to make it interesting because the rest. Oh, and I got the Calder. I almost finished. So the Calder. I have Lane Hudson from the Canadians.
Okay,
This
like
kid,
that.
I've watched him in preseason. He reminds me of a very young Cale Makar. Cale's very young, but he looks like a young Cale Makar in the making. The way he skates, the way he moves, the way he sees the ice. I think Montreal's got a gem on their hands, and I really think he's going to step into the NHL and make a statement. And I really think he's got an opportunity to play there. Their team is very young, and it gives them the chance to crack the roster and play a lot of minutes under Marty. So Lane Hudson has my Calder Trophy vote. And that will be the wrap up for awards for me.
Love it. Yeah, we'll have to recap again as we normally do. Next episode, what we'll do is we'll recap our picks from last year and come in and see exactly what we pegged in on. Because I remember I was going in hot. I was the one who infamously picked Jack Campbell for the Vezina Trophy, and we all know how that went. So although I was right on a few of them, when we back it up, I'm like, okay, well, I was right more than I was wrong, right? I'm gonna go into it here. So award winners for myself. Art Ross, I don't think I need to go into much. I like McDavid's chances. I don't think Kucherov's gonna hit 140 again. I think the only one that I truthfully think is gonna touch that one or the two people I think could touch the Art Ross are going to be Draisaitl and McKinnon. So it's like one of the three, I think, between McDavid, Draisaitl, and McKinnon are touching for Art Ross. I do think McDavid's going to take it. I'm going to pay him at 136 points this year.
Ooh,
The Rocket Richard, here we go,
Tyler's thinking.
is an interesting Tyler's Seguin is going to be an interesting one for me. I'm kind of taking a shot in the dark here. It's not really a
Oh,
shot in the
I
dark.
like you.
It's not really off the board, but it's maybe not as sexy as pick as most people look. I think David Pastrnak is winning Rocket this year. I think if anything, he's kind of developed himself into a much more of a playmaker. I think this year, kind of going into it, he is going to have a lot of eyes on him again, focused in the forward
Mhm.
group particularly. I really do think they need to start scoring more goals. I think now that their defense isn't nearly as, you know, reliable at moving the puck in the back end. Sure, they're big. Sure, they're strong. Sure, they can close off, and they'll probably kind of keep the puck out of their net. Keeping the puck out of their net's one thing. You can't allow 30 plus shots every single night doing so. So I think that Pasternak's going to kind of bring that shoot first mentality again into this season. I feel like this year he's going to get up closer to the 60s again. I really do think between him and Matthews, they're going to be about 3 or 4 goals apart. I'm going to put Pasternak at 61, and I think Matthews finishes at 57. My guess. Norris, I'm going to go to Dallas and say Miro
Mhm.
Heiskanen. I think he is a very
Ooh.
sneaky choice for here. One of the smoothest skaters in the entire league. He's playing in a very offensive group, as we touched on before, with the likes of, as we name it, Robertson, Hintz, Sagan, Ben, Stankoven, and Wyatt Johnson. Like, you look at all of their forward groups. It doesn't matter if Heiskanen's out there with the first line, the fourth line, or the power play. He's got guys that can put the puck in the back of the net and help with his point production. But when you look at what he does defensively, being able to just smoothly take away any lanes, get into lanes, outskate guys that are going forwards, and he can outskate them going backwards. I mean, he's so quick, so smart, make that first breakout pass. I think that if Dallas does win the Central, I really do feel strongly that Heiskanen's going to be a big part of that, and that they will have a chance to bring the Norris to Dallas. Moving on, we ain't going far down the road. Matter of fact, we're staying in Dallas for the Vesna, and I'm taking Jake Ottinger. I think
Ooh.
Dallas is due for a big year. I really do. They've got the pieces. They're not being
Mhm.
talked about nearly enough. They don't get nearly enough credit that they deserve. I think Ottinger is one of the best goalies in the league. He had an off season. He had an off playoffs. He didn't kind of have that same year as he did prior to. I think that rebounds, no pun intended, because he's a goalie, that he rebounds
Yeah.
into some he rebounds into form and gets back into shape to be a number one goalie for not only Dallas but in the entire league. I got Jake Ottinger Vesna. For my heart candidate, I have Mr. 97. I think that this year, as you just said, is like, I know last year was cup or bust, but this year's like cup or bust. Like, we gotta really win this one because this is our absolute last chance of doing so. I say that just because of the mere sake that the Oilers have Bouchard coming up. They're going to have Skinner in the next season. And then they got to give 97 a pretty decent extension as well. You would think he's probably going to make an extra 3 or 4, maybe even 4.5 extra than he is right now. There's a lot of money going out the window on a couple guys that are already playing on that team right now with very little coming in. So I think that this is a big year for him to really step up and say, this is my absolute best chance at winning a cup is this season, especially with the performance losing last year, Game 7. It's just extra motivation. Calder, as we pointed out earlier, I am not going with the likes of Celebrini or any of the sexy top picks. I am going down the list a few to Logan Stankoven out of the Dallas Stars. Little
Big
mini
Dallas.
Pavelski is what I call this guy. Plays the almost similar style, a little smaller on the stature, plays in front of the net. Doesn't matter if he takes a cross check to the back or a puck to the face. He is there every time consistently. can deflect the puck really well. Nobody does it better than Joe. We get it, but he's obviously been there, like I said, for a few years to learn from guys like him. So I think Stankoven's going to come in. I loved what he did in World Juniors. I loved how he competes day in and day out. He did play some games last year in the NHL, and I did not think he looked out of place. Matter of fact, I think he was close to a point per game in the 5 or 6 game stint last season. So I think after another good finish to the season in the AHL last year, I think he's going to come up this season and be a mainstay. And I really do feel that Stankoven could very well battle for a top 6 position in Dallas, knowing that they do have a few guys that were a little older. They had a few guys that came off of injury last year. So you look at that top 6, they have Robertson, Hintz, Johnson. They have Marchment and Duchesne listed between Sagan right now. But they also have that Maverick Bork kid coming in the lineup as well. So they do have a young bottom 6. So we'll see. That's my pick. Calder, Logan Stankoven. Anything else that you want to add on those ones?
No, we move on. I just, like we said, McDavid's revenge tour. I know it's a lot of obvious choices, but I mean, I don't
Sometimes you
know.
got to stick to the guns,
You
right?
kind of stick to them, yeah. Like they're almost that obvious. Where the only other player that could replace those guys is maybe McKinnon, just because he's up
Right.
there in that skill level. But again, McDavid's got something to prove this year. He's got the itch, so he's gonna be rocking and rolling early. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's finish off with just a very quick little fun game, if you will. We're going to do as we bring back hot or not. First topic. If you're ready, I will let you go. You basically just have to hit me with a hot or not. You're welcome to chime in too in there, but hot or not. Ovechkin scores number 42 this season to break Gretzky's record.
no, not
Not. He's not breaking it this
no,
year.
no. He is getting older. He's still got some pieces around him, but you could really tell last year he took a step back just because, I mean, like we just said, he's not getting any younger. But I
Too
still think
old.
I think he still will be in that 30 range, 25 to 30 range, like he did last year. But it's not quite there yet. I think it's going to be the season following that he breaks the record, and hopefully it's nearby because I would like to attend.
Yeah, I agree. I got him somewhere in like the 22, 23 goal range this year.
Mhm.
Um, and then probably puts up like 15 the next year and then just plays till he's 44 just to get the trophy or the record. Hot or not, Nashville will finish with more points than the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stamkos Revenge Tour.
Nope.
Not?
No, not.
You think the Predators
No.
finish with less points than the
Yes.
Bolts?
Yes. And it's hard to not be biased. Just putting the two rosters together, I still think Tampa's got a stronger roster than the Nashville Predators. Don't get me wrong, the Preds are gonna be good this year, but I just think some of the key replacements for the Tampa Bay Lightning, as much as Nashville probably won the offseason, I think are gonna solidify the lineup very well, and I still think Tampa, it will be close, but I think Tampa will squeak out with more points.
All right. Hot
Yeah.
or not, one of Toronto's core 4 will be traded with a slow team start.
Oh, God. I thought it was going to happen this off season, so I don't know. Like, I don't know if anyone's just scared to pull the trigger. I'm just going to follow with past trends and say not. Like, I don't know. I would like to see someone get moved to just make the statement of being moved, but it's been 8 fucking years and no one's been moved, and it's
Mhm.
been failure after failure after failure after failure. So, I mean, the only piece that makes sense to move would be Marner. No one's taking JT's contract, and I don't think you can move. You're gonna have to keep Matthews. Willie, I don't know. I think I take Willie over Marner. I mean, that could be a heat discussion, but I think I'd rather have Willie, honestly. But I don't know. I'm gonna say not, just because they
Final
would have done it
answer,
already.
not. All right. Next one, hot or not, Connor Bedard will finish top 10 in points.
Jeez, I'm not very fun today. I'm gonna say not again. I've been saying. Here's the thing. there's so much talent in this league, and I get Bedard's upside is crazy. He put up 62, 63 points, but he was injured. Even if he steps his game and gets to 80, that's still not top 10. There's so many guys that produce in this league. I think there was like 9 or 10 guys over 100 points last year, and I just don't think he's at the point where he's going to crack 100. I think he'll be close to that point per game mark, but that's not going to be top 10, unfortunately, just because today's age is a lot of offensive hockey. And there's just a lot of guys that produce high in this league, and he's going to get there. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he's there yet.
Okay. Hot or not, Utah will reach the 90 plus point plateau for the first time since 2012.
Holy shit, it's been 12 years. Oh shit. I don't. Ah, God, I don't think so. Are you gonna say not again?
Okay, this is fun.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could. I'm just saying what I think's gonna happen. And when it was funny. I was giggling writing these notes down because I had no across the board on all of them. I'm like, wow, this isn't gonna be fun to talk about because I'm saying no to everything. But I think the divisions too is very strong, and Utah's a very young team still. And they got a lot, I think, to go before they can get there. I feel like at that mid 90 range is kind of when you're starting to talk playoffs. And I just don't think Utah's quite there yet. They're going to be fighting early, but I think the division's too competitive. So that's why I don't have them there just quite yet.
All right. I'll do a recap here. I also said not to Ovi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also gonna not Nashville. I do not believe
Yeah,
Nashville
baby.
is as good as people think they're going to be this season. I think they're gonna do solid. I do not have Nashville making playoffs this year. I do not. Um, One of Toronto's core four will not be traded. No, if they would have done that, they would have done that already. I do not
Mm-hmm.
think losing the first, or losing 5 out of the first 10 games or 5 out of the first 12 games or whatever is going to be indicative of what they do, because I really don't think they would have made that decision. And now, especially this early in the season, teams aren't going to be wanting to make drastic moves like that. I don't think. Connor Bedard will finish top 10 in points this season to me.
Woo!
I just had a very quick peek leak here on the old statistics from ESPN, courtesy of, thank you very much, last season. There were, guess how many? You said how many how many 100-point players did you guess? 10?
I think it was 9.
So I thought you said there were 10. So the point of the exercise here is there were 9 100-point players last season, and there were 27 players that hit the 80-point plateau.
Oh,
So in order for Bedard to get into top 10 scoring, according to last season's statistics, he would have needed to bump out Toronto's own William Nylander 98 points in 82 games last season. So, I mean, it's doable. Am I saying he's going to do it? Absolutely not. But I'm just simply saying that it is in fact doable for a player of his caliber. I truthfully think. I mean, the way you look at the way he controls the game, he was 61 points in 68 games last year as a rookie with absolutely nobody. Now he's a
mm-hmm.
sophomore going in with a little bit of experience and players to play with. So, I guess we'll see, right? And last but not least, yes, Utah will reach the 90 plus point plateau
Mm-hmm.
for the first time since 2012. I really like the additions that they've had this season. Sergachev being the biggest. They've also brought in a couple of the younger kids. They have a few kids now. I mean, Keller has already taken a step forward the last few seasons, I really should say.
He's
And
captain
there's a
El
few young
Capitan.
kids in that. Machelli is there. They've got Schmaltz, who kind of runs the forward group and then runs that sort of that power play as a whole too. So, I mean, I'm not mad at their lineup. I'd like to see them do a little bit better than most people are thinking. And, Cooley's going to take a step forward. Gunther just got that big payday last week or so as well too. So we'll see. I think it'd be pretty exciting to let Utah get into the 90 plus point plateau, and we'll see where they go from there. Is there
Mhm.
anything else you want to add tonight, there, buddy? We're puck drops tomorrow, according. I mean, technically it was Tuesday in Prague, but the games themselves typically will start tomorrow. We're back, baby. Hockey's back. We're due for another good season. Hopefully, that's filled with lots of drama. Hopefully,
Mhm.
filled with lots of storylines. And yeah, man, I'm excited. Anything else you want to say on that?
Yeah, I'll double up too. I'm so excited for hockey. It's been a while, and yeah, like you said, it started a bit last week, but this is, it starts in North America tomorrow, and it's a triple header. So, um, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so excited. I'm fired up. I'm just like, God, get hockey back. We got IPTV here. I get all the goddamn games. I'm so fucking fired up.
Love it.
So, gotta love it.
Love it.
So, go Bolts, baby.
Love it. All right, wicked. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you again for listening. Please drop that like, subscribe to the YouTube. Please follow, share the social medias at North Six Sports, as well as please follow this podcast. If you made it this far, we deserve a follow, at least at this particular point. Thanks, everyone listening. We're back, baby. Hockey season is here again. Let's get it.
Woo!